Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. If you can hear me well, can you please write something in the chat box? Yes, wonderful. Thank you very much. My name is Evgenia Generalova, and I'm Knowledge and Communications Manager for Child Protection Hub based in Budapest. And I'm very happy to have you with us today for this webinar. Before I give the floor to the speakers, I would like to give you a very brief overview of the platform in case for any of you it's the first time you're using Adobe Connect. So as you see, we will be having a few polls during the webinar. One of them, the first one, you can see now on the screen. Thank you very much for taking time to answer it. I will hide it now. And please pay attention, we will have more during the webinar. As you know, your microphones will be muted. So if you want to communicate, comment, ask questions, please use the chat box in the right-hand bottom corner. If you lose sound at any moment of the webinar, the first thing you should do is to check the microphone icon, the speaker icon, sorry, on the top black bar. It should be green. Click on it if it's not green. If it doesn't help, let us know in the chat box and we will help you. And also on the same top black bar, you can see an icon of a man with a raised hand. You can use it to communicate your suggestions, emotions, like to ask us slow down, or to speak louder, or to say you agree, or similar. You can check the options and play with it. And now I would like to give the floor to Mihaela Sasraman and Andrei Kishku. And I guess Mihaela is going to be the first presenter. And it will take me a second to put her presentation. And now, Mihaela, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so hello everybody. Can you hear me? I hope.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm very glad to be today here with you. And yes, and I hope that this will be interesting for everybody. We are here in order to present a part of our experience, both in Romania, but in both Balkanic countries and in Moldova. I myself am originally I was formed as a philologist, but that was a long time ago. And then I learned theater, and then I learned drama therapy. And out of all these academic formation, it resulted an experience in education in theater with teenagers, but also with children in schools and in orphanages. I was doing this job, this work, since 1998, and I also did, since 1999, work in the penitentiary system in Romania, Bulgaria, and Moldova. All these together let us, together with Andrei, let us create programs, implement programs, and accumulate an experience which we think will be interesting for you all. Andrei, will you please present yourself now?
Hello everybody. Hello everybody. I'm Andrei Kishku. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I work in the field of correctional intervention from 1999. The year which I started to work together with Mihaela in a therapeutic community for violent offenders in Rahova prison in Bucharest. And from 2009 I'm working as a clinical psychologist in Save the Children Romania, in a center for emotional and behavioral intervention for children, adolescents, and their parents, their families. I also work in the child mental health and in the child protection services. Okay, and I give the word to Mihaela to start it to present our experience in working with children and adolescents at risk for developing delinquency.
Okay, so I will begin by saying what is the aim of this webinar. And what is very important is that we want to present you 2 examples of programs for reducing and preventing juveniles' offending behavior. Why are important these programs? Because they respond to the needs and conditions of life and development of 2 different groups of juvenile. The settings are different. The settings we are talking about are different. And we think we really did our best to respond to what the children need and what the adolescents need through these 2 programs. In order to understand better the program, we will present the characteristics of juvenile at risk of delinquency. The 2 programs have been developed in Romania based upon our experience with, as I said, schools, orphanages, which means very young people at risk, but also experience in penitentiaries where we did work with young people, with juveniles already convicted. Also, I have experience with a group of young people in probation. We did all the time improved our programs, and this is the practice that we are trying to present. After having these programs in Romania, we also did the next step, which was to train professionals in Moldova in order to, but not only to train them, but also to adapt our programs to the specific conditions of Moldova. And this was done within the framework of the project held by Terdezom, Moldova. And this project is, you can see it on the first slide of the this is the title and also the financing part. So these are the basic of our meeting today. This is the aim of this meeting, and we are going to give you now a very short and quick poll. Would you please help us with this, Evgenia? So the reason we are asking you these questions is that it will be easier for us, if we know something about your background, to adapt our presentation. And this will, okay, perfect. I see already the answer. It means that we can be very technical. Just in order to know, to make sense of what we are saying. Maybe we are thinking it's going to be too technical. Maybe we are talking more about experience, day-by-day experience, which makes sense when you work with these groups of juvenile people. So I'm not sure if this is already the end of of the poll. I think it's not. We are still waiting for some answers. The idea is that, alright, so until I see the conclusion of the poll, I will continue with presenting you separately the programs we are talking about. First, it's a program for the first one. It's a program for children age between 10 and 13, 14, depending on the school system, with pre-delinquent behavior. As you can see here, there is a very important specificity of this program. It is important for us that we are not going to separate. Firstly, we work in school, and we do not separate children with problems from the general group of children. So the philosophy of the program is much more to integrate the children with problems within the group of the class, for example. So that makes it less focused on criminal specificity in thinking or behavior, and even in emotion. And this program is focused more on the needs, human needs, which were not very well addressed until this age, and which make the child to be very much at risk of becoming a delinquent, because he's really on the threshold of between being just a child with normal development and the threshold where normal human needs, when are not responded, can become criminogenic needs. So this is one program, and it is important that this program needs to have a good support from the institution, and we are going to see later in the presentation how is this support playing a role and what kind of support is needed from the school. The second program is addressed to juveniles who already have been sentenced, and that makes a really important difference. These kids have already documented criminal behavior. If the first group doesn't have such a documented behavior, the second group, not only that there is a proof that they broke the law, so not only rules, but also they broke the law, but also already a judge said, okay, you have to pay to the society, or you have to be or try to do something so that you improve your behavior in the society. And the hypothesis is that for this group of kids, there is already in their mind pretty much developed criminal thinking. This means beliefs like, for example, the life doesn't worth living unless you have a lot of money, and you cannot earn a lot of money if you're not a serious criminal. Only criminals are important, only they have honor, only their life is interesting. And these are basic beliefs which begin already to shape their style of life. Therefore, the program for them, it's much more focused on confronting and on trying to show them how they can correct their criminal thinking. Now, the next sequence of our presentation is going to be a sequence focused on theory. It always have been important for us. What is the theory we are using? What are the strong points of the theories we are using in work? And therefore, we want to present to you what we are based on when we go and see and meet and work with the kids. So Andrei is going to do this part. So Andrei, I'm going to give you the floor now.
Thank you. One of the old way of viewing delinquency and antisocial behavior is a standpoint that make the child only one who is responsible for his behavior, and the blame is on the child. It's a old way to saw the delinquency. But recently, the new data coming from neurosciences, in a specific way from new neurobiology, helps us to understand that the behavior, the criminal behavior, is a product, is a result of an experience that many children from our countries passes by in families, in their communities, in the school, in relation with caregivers, teachers, peers, and which shapes the inner structure of the brain, who is the source of the decision, who is the source of the way in which children, adolescents, and adults altogether regulate their emotion and their behavior. The new neurobiology tells us about the way in which we can intervene to help these children and adolescents at risk, based upon one feature of our brain, which is the neuroplasticity, which means that our brain is shapeable and could be influenced by the experience that which we have. This intersubjective experience, the relationship which an adult could establish with children or adolescents at risk, could modify the inner structure of their brain, create new pathways in their brains which could help them to regulate and to self-control and to control their behavior. Two concepts from attachment theories is relevant by our program, our two programs, and these are connection, which means that we try to establish a relationship with the children, which means we looking at the children, we listen them, we trying to understand and to read what is the behind of their behavior, which often is labeled by others, by adults, by teachers, as disruptive, defiant, provocative, and which keep the children away to a relation. We're trying to connect and to establish a relationship in which we trying to work together. The second one is attunement, and attunement is a concept which trying to illustrate how to connect together, maintaining and modulating in a relationship children, adult with the children in a relationship. Connection and attunement are the two concepts coming from attachment theories and from neurobiology, which helps us to maintain a relationship and a framework in which we propose to children to work and to learn and to develop new habits, new skills. Another source, another theoretical source for our intervention is the fact that is a timing, it's a proper period in which we can intervene to influence the behavior of the children. And developmental theories shows us that 10, 14 and 14, 18 years are huge stages in which happens huge transformation neurologically, hormonally, physiologically, psychologically, which create for us an opportunity window of intervention. As another theoretical background for our intervention is read need responsivity model of intervention developed by Andrews, Bonta and Hodge, which tells us that our higher risk children, it's proper to include them in an intensive program. This program needs to address to their criminogenic needs, which about we talking further. And third aspect, responsivity. This intervention should be tailored, fitted to a learning style of the children. Our model of intervention are based on cognitive behavioral orientation, which means that delinquent behavior, a criminal behavior, an antisocial behavior stands upon criminal thinking, which is mean that we trying to address to the thinking, to the cause, to the source of behavior. On the other way, we are taking in consideration the body-brain orientation, which means that the intervention address in a cognitive behavioral manner, in a top-down from brain to behavior, but also we trying to address in a bottom-up manner, which means that we trying to work using experiential and drama therapy exercises, experiential exercises to connect the body with the brain. Many of the children and adolescents at risk for delinquency have a history of trauma, which means that many of them are disconnected from their body. In our intervention, drama therapy and experiential exercises play an important role. Talking about types of delinquent behavior in 10, 14 and 14, 18, we are finding as a types of crime status offenses. An example is truancy, but also a kind of a type of behavior which is illegal at this age. I talking about substance use, alcohol use, which is a huge problem in many countries. Another type of juvenile crime are property crime, which represent 70% from offending behaviors in juveniles. On the other hand, we're talking about violent crime, robbery, assault, sex crime, example harassment, rape, and substance use related crimes, use and trafficking of drugs. About classification related to age, there are offenses which is limited to adolescents, and it's important to underline that one cause of this limitation is the fact that the juveniles, the adolescents, have the chance to had new experience to reorient or their attention, their behavior, and to motivate them to develop new skills. And the second one is life course persistence offenses. We're talking about the juveniles who will develop antisocial lifestyles. Okay. Now I need to ask you, what is your experience with juvenile delinquency? Because it's important for us to know what is your experience with this type of children and adolescents. Yes, and it's very interesting. It's very interesting from attunement and connection perspective. 20% from you tells us, I know young people with pre-delinquent or delinquent behavior. Because one of important aspects is about trying to understand what happens behind this behavior. What are the cause and what are the source of delinquent behavior? At some point, delinquent behavior could be part of normal development. We know that a part of normal development in adolescents, it's rebelliousness against all type of authority, which means against parents, against teachers, against everyone who represents in their minds authority. And this is normative because it's a part of normal development. In order to develop an identity, the adolescent need to take the risk and to choose an option assuming the risk. But depending but depending on the type of behavior, the severity, the age of onset and frequency, this behavior could be problematic in relation with other peers and could be problematic because of the consequences of upon others and on himself. Anyway, this kind of behavior should be taken in consideration about by the adults, which means by parents, teachers, counselors, and they should take further actions, which means they need to find out the cause of this behavior, to discuss with the adolescents in a supportive, warm, understanding atmosphere. And also it's important to exist a supervision of adolescent behavior. Delinquent behavior, we know today, it's not a result of a single factor. Delinquent behavior, it's determined by multiple factors, and in our intervention programs, we should know what are the risk factors which can be addressed in our intervention. Some of the risk factors are static factors, some of the risk factors are dynamic factors. Static factors could not be changing because are related with history, but dynamic factors, which are actually what do the children or adolescents in the present, could be changed. Okay. We classified three risk factors: individual risk factors, family risk factors, and environmental risk factors. Individual risk factors are related to the children or adolescents. Some of them had learning difficulties, dyslexia, have a problem with attention, or are hyperactive. Some of them are have a problem with emotional regulation, which create for themselves problems in interaction with others. For some of them, it's difficult in a way. It's difficult to take the perspective of others, to understand the perspective of others. Some of them lacks empathy. Some of them are low or reduced problem-solving skills, or social skills, or emotional skills, which expose them to difficulty in peer interactions or adult interactions. School dropout are an important factors who could predict delinquency. It's a strong predictor for delinquency, which we will see in Mihaela presentation are an important argument for intervenes in the school. Parental risk factors related to delinquency are harsh coercive discipline, permissive styles of parenting, abuse or neglect, unpredictable or chaotic behaviors of parents or caregivers, lack of supervisions, and also low socio-economical status, which conduct to low resources. And environmental risk factors which related to crime for children and adolescents are criminal neighborhoods for those who lived in a high-risk neighborhood, peer antisocial group affiliations, crime offending normalization in community, isolation or stigma, for example, for Roma children, social exclusions, and lack of proper opportunities to stimulate and engage children. So, further, in order to prevent or reduce the risk for delinquent behavior, we thinking to a good pro-social adult role model, an intervention which address in a school environment, educational programs in school for learning new skills, and or educational programs for changing violent behaviors of adolescents for those who are sentenced to an alternative punishment. Okay, and now I pass the microphone to Mihaela, which will told us about school's interventions.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrei. We are going now to look at the next poll. And the next poll is like an introduction to our work, to our talking about what happens in school, because even if we like it or not, a lot of this problem starts in school. So please look at this poll and answer if you can, please, to our question, because as you all know, I think violence in school, it's a big problem, and it's a very important topic, even on the European agenda. And even if it is addressed as bullying in school, it is still violence, and we need to really take care of the relationship between violence in school, bullying, and criminal behavior. And the way children are, how much children are exposed to this phenomenon, the fact that school answers maybe not in the very good way, and their lack of guidance in order to be protected from bullying or violence are very important factors when we discuss about creating a pre-delinquent behavior, and in particular a delinquent style of life. Basically what a child learns in school when he is subject to bullying and he sees that other kids who fight back or who bring strong violent parents in school, and those parents are fighting back, they see that these kind of behavior get to be dominant, and they have victory and he is losing. automatically his mind gets to the conclusion that it is more useful to break the law and you will win, and it's not good, not pleasant, and it brings you nothing to respect the law. So this is, so to speak, a very important component of the school life. All of us have been, I think, or many of us have been to some point subject to violence, and we had to choose between being violent or non-violent. So it is important that that experience gives us arguments and knowledge when we go to work with kids. So I see some of your answers. Thank you very much for this. Yes, it is absolutely important for us that we know we will always understand what happens when we work with kids at this stage. So what means a pro-social role model? It is, of course, an adult, a parent or a caregiver, a relative or an educator who will be always connected to the child and will always try to be attuned and will always make sense of life in a pro-social way, meaning following the rules. This is very important that practically from a good role model, the child should be capable of learning how can you have a good life, even if you will respect the rules, which is not so simple, not so easy, but in the end, you get to win something and to feel well and to be in a group which feels good for you and safe. So these are the basic, really the important things that a good pro-social role model should do. And of course, one other characteristic which is paramount is consistency. In next level, we have the child-adolescent need to which this adult will respond, and these needs will be for safety, attention, stimulation, support, and warmth. There is a slight contradiction between the characteristic of the phase of the adolescence, the phase of development of the mind, of the brain of the adolescents, and this need for safety, support, and warmth. Practically, we can say that there is the reality of the brain and the mind and the body of the adolescent who is prone to erratic behavior and prone to risky decision, and he wants to be independent and he doesn't want to explain anything to anybody. But in the same time, it is the need of making sense out of any experience, either good or bad, and in particular, in order to develop as a good pro-social member of society, he really needs an adult with experience who can help him to make sense, to put in order, to connect what he wants with what happens, the pain with the happiness, and all the experiences of his life up until that point with his wishes. So that in a way might be so the need of the adolescents at this phase are not so self-aware. They themselves are not self-aware of these needs, maybe, but in reality that's the real need they have. And a good role model will respond to that. Criminogenic needs basically are, as Andrei said, dynamic risk factors, but on the other hand are, simply put it, human needs not responded in the right time, at the right moment. So because, for example, one child did not find a good group, pro-social group, and peer kids with an adult caregiver to help him integrate in a group, which is a pro-social group, he decides that he will stay there where other people find him pleasant or useful. And in particular for children victims of bullying and violence in school, a criminal or pre-delinquent group of adolescents is going to be a peer group which will take him enthusiastically to be part of the group. In this group, antisocial belief will be developed because he will be exposed to them every day. After school, he will meet with these peers, and of course, he will believe that criminal beliefs about life will give you a good life, will give you victory, will make you a successful adult, and he will start looking only at the arguments these adolescents in a criminal group have. Like, for example, all the thieves are in the higher institutions of one country. If you are an upper class person, you will never be convicted. Only small criminals are convicted. Life is not fair. Violence will give you the upper hand, and things like that. Within these groups come substance abuse and a limited number and level of skills. We can never say these kids and adolescents have no skills. We must remember that they are able to hide a lot. In number of cases, a lot of the time, they hide from the parents, and parents do not know they don't go to school. So there is a danger here to consider that they have no skills. They have some skills, but they use those skills only for antisocial behavior and, of course, lack of empathy. So if we respond to that, we have all the chances to do a very good program. School intervention, it's very important under only one aspect, and I'm going to emphasize this aspect, which is values, correct values, which are consistently held. The difference between what a child learns in the class and in a lesson and how a situation is solved outside the class by a teacher, that difference gives a very strong argument for the child that school is not serious, school will never protect you, and school is saying one thing and doing another. So a school where really all this assertive communication, feel safe and valuable, negotiate conflict, solving problems in a non-violent way is really implemented by everybody. This is the school that either with or without programs is going to produce healthier, so to speak, children, a more balanced, more harmonically developed. And within this context of intervention, the principle of effective intervention programs are risk principle, need principle, and responsivity principle. Because we talked already about risk and need, I'm going to say just a little bit about responsivity. Responsivity is very important because not all children learn through just sitting down and listening. Well, very few children learn through that. So we need to always give them both exercises, images, alternative ways of learning, and in particular with younger children, using 2 or 3 ways of expression, meaning just a presentation and then an exercise and then a drawing for the same theoretical information is very useful. And this is a way to make sure that they will connect the information, the word, the abstract, with some practical event of their life. The 2 programs we did in Moldova, we tried to transfer in Moldova with a great team. Our one group, the first I was talking about in the beginning, addressed to children in school, and the other one, which I'm going to present later a little bit, the one for the probation system. So here in school, the program is has this aim of oh my God, I did something with my computer, something bad. Yeah, I'm back. The aim is to prevent violent behavior, but because if we put it in this simple way, we know exactly what we want to have in the end. So the ways to attend this aim is to create the safe learning environment, meaning that the group is not going to be a group where some authority is going to punish or criticize or put a label on any kid. All the kids have equal status and equal right to be heard. Always will be encouraged to talk and will never be corrected or criticized. Will basically in these programs, everything children are saying is the material for us to work. Their words and their behavior help us to understand, to see more, to stay connected, and finally to get this state of attunement with them. Of course, it is difficult to be attuned with 20 kids at the same time, but this attunement, it's fluid. We stay connected with the group, and every now and then you are attuned with one kid and then with the other and then with the other. So this is the way of creating a good environment, and safe means we always have a number of rules which we will respect, and in a decent way we always confront the breaking of the rules, and this will make everybody have an experience that it is possible to be pro-social and it's not bad and it doesn't make you feel bad. And in this environment, then everybody will develop emotional, social skills, anger management skills, and problem-solving skills. With this group of age, it is very important to develop first emotional skills, general emotional skills, and address all those emotions which are not anger, but the emotions which come before being angry and are a very good starting for anger. So that's why this module, it's very important, and you will see that the principles of the program will replicate the principle of a good program. And the setting of the program, this is something important, that in this group you will have children who did at some point some violence, but also you can have children who did not have violence, and you use the experience of those non-violent kids who have a better role model at home maybe, or in the neighborhood, to connect them with the kids who did not have the same resources and create a common experience. So therefore we will keep the age of the children in the group similar. You see here 1 year. It's best to have children who have plus minus 1 year, and a maximum of 20 children. We had a long discussion in Moldova about how big should be the group, the ideal group. is 15 children. Of course, which school can give you only 20 children in a class? A little number, a small number. So 20 children, it's more manageable. No way, you cannot do a program, and you cannot do this program with 30 children. This is too much, and you cannot respect the condition of connectivity and attunement. You cannot stay connected for 40 minutes with 30 kids. The next thing about the program is that the structure as a program, I did talk a little bit about it before. It addresses, there is a logic for this, and I think it is pretty much self-explanatory, that we first use the, we first talk about the general emotions. First, we use the kid, we get them used with talking about emotions. And here, I see we don't have very much time, but here it is a very important difference between cultures. For example, a lot of the things we did, we learned, part of the things we learned from America, from the United States. There is a culture there. People do talk about their emotions. They are very used to talking about their emotions, about their life, and with other people who are almost strangers. In Romania, for example, you cannot do that. For example, a boy who talks about emotions, it's never going to be a man, a real man. You know, beliefs about what is a real man, what is a real woman, things like that discourage children and discourage teachers to talk to children in school about emotions, which is not good, as we all know. So the program tries to bring back this, or to put this subject in the group, and this way the children will learn that everybody have emotion, everybody express emotion. It is safe to recognize the emotion, to talk about it, and this way, even if you talk about it, you learn how to regulate your own emotion. So in the end, we get to the violent behavior, and we do try to identify the early justification of crime. As I talked about this before, like, for example, why do that guy has a huge red Ferrari and I don't have it, and what should I do in order to have a red Ferrari? Can I have it by being a construction worker? The answer is no. How is going to cope with that? Can he find in his life something different, which is even more valuable than a red Ferrari? Who's going to teach him what is more important than a red Ferrari in life, and how can he learn to get it? This program is like the beginning of this process of trying to build yourself a good life with the resources you have, and respecting the law and respecting other people in the society you live in. The experiential learning is very important because we, in all the lessons, about 50% of the time minimum, minimum 50% of the time in each session is dedicated to exercises. We had here a poll, and this is about what kind of groups have you been in the school. In our school, and from what I know, I learned that in Moldova it's pretty much similar. In the Romanian school, after this, in the late 15 years, we don't have that many extracurricular activity, meaning that the class group is the only group in school, basically, that kids know. These programs are group-based exclusively, meaning that they have the opportunity to experience a different kind of group. Although we have recompenses, we have ways to underline that what this kid did is very good. Well, the group is not competitive in the same way that the class is competitive. So they need to learn about different styles of group, different types of groups. So I see that sport, for the moment, it's on the first place, which is very good. Sports are not very much done in schools because they are costly, and this is not a good idea, because the kind of discipline that group sport in particular needs is a very good experience for all young children. So of course it depends very much on the person who teaches you or who gives you this experience, but in any way, sports and well, I'm a little bit sad that theater is not such a it wasn't an experience for so many of you, but theater in countries we studied, like England, for example, it's a very it's a very common extracurricular activity for the fact that it assures an experiential learning of all these pro-social skills and social skills. On the other hand, I must say personally, want very much that many groups of sports will be organized in school, because discipline here in sports is a very good way to learn the discipline of the effort. I'm not talking about the discipline in group, although that is also important, but discipline of the effort. So the next thing we are going to talk about is the program for the adolescents who have been sentenced to alternative punishment. This is practically, it's a program that can be developed with the probation. This is suitable for the probation program. This program is much more structured. The means to attendees' aim is to, you see the difference from the other program is that here it's a really learning group and the accent is on learning. Adolescents have the opportunity to find out new things they did not know about. You will always have a surprise how people with antisocial behavior have no idea what the pro-social life is. So one very important element of this program is that they learn what does it mean to be pro-social. They only see usually the fact that you go to the work every day and this is boring, and you work like a, you know, as the song said, and you work a lot and you feel a little bit humiliated because you work a lot and you have a little money, and other people who don't work have a lot of money. They don't know which are the good parts of a pro-social life. Why did we decide to be pro-social? This is very important for them. So also they learn how can we change if we want. Meaning from the cognitive behavioral theory, we also discuss how is the connection between what I think determines what I do, what I think, what I feel, my beliefs determine what I do. And so after they understand how they can do the process, they decide if they want to change. This is a very important part of the program. Let's not forget this is a program for probation. It's connected to a sentence. They don't come if they are not sent by a judge in the program. Otherwise, they have a very low motivation to come. So if within the sentence they have to come to the program, then the thing that is an advantage for us is that we tell them, listen, here you came here, you have an experience, a new experience, you learn, you have all kind of new emotions and new thoughts, and you know us, and then you decide. And So he is bound by the sentence to come, but he has the freedom to decide if he changes or not. And this is extremely important because he feels he's in control of his life. Principle of the program, again, they reflect the principle of a good program. And the setting is that this time the group must be homogeneous. For example, you are not going to put young adolescents who are there sentenced for sex crime together with young adolescents who are sentenced for violent crimes. And so they can be within this range of 4 years, they can stay together, so they don't need to be by the same age. And because the group must be very specific on how am I going to be able to change my mind in order to change my behavior, a group bigger than 8, it's already a too heavy group. And of course, what we know about a group session must be taken in a comfortable place, adequate, big enough, with natural light, and with space enough to make exercises. It's very important, the consistency of the program, once a week, same time, same day, same hour. The structure of the program is, as you can see, and this reflects what I said before, the structure of the program, that there is, you can see the module on the module 3. The group is going to talk about my change. Do I want to have a new life? Do I want to have a pro-social life? Do I think I can do it? Do I have the guts to do it? Because it's not so easy to change your life. So, and this, in order to, if they decide to do it, then the relapse prevention plan is particular for every participant. And this is, so to speak, the guide of his life from now on. And it's very important to include in this relapse prevention plan the good life concept. And the good life for them is a life that makes sense and which gives me the safety and the emotions which I can deal with, and some safety that I did not have and I can appreciate, because I can relax and I can think about how do I want to develop myself from now on. So it is a life based upon what I think that for me can be a life that I enjoy, alternative to the life where I drive a red Ferrari I stole from Piazza Amzi, for example. Okay. And again here, it's very important to use a lot of exercises, theater, but also a lot of physical exercises, improvisation and artwork. With the adolescents, this I think is the some of the last thing I want to underline, that with the adolescents, I'm sorry, I saw a message from the group, and I just wanted to show what it is. With the adolescents, is very important to keep in mind, with those who are already convicted, keep in mind that in this phase, they want to impress everybody, and they want to send a message through the world, some of them, that they are, you know, important criminals, and they are not afraid of anything, and what is that program? So it is important for them to see how life can be different, even if they don't have that righteousness and that position of let's dominate the world. And only them themselves can give the answer to that. It's important for all the people who work with them to respect their decision. So I think that is the last Yes. So that was it, our presentation. I don't know if we still have some, or if anyone wants to give us questions, or, but anyway, this is it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is Evgenia speaking again. We will keep the room open for a while. If any of the participants have questions or comments, this is the time when you can use the chat box to write them. And meanwhile, I would like to take the opportunity and to remind you that if you want to receive a certificate of attendance, please email us at this email address that I just put to the chat, and let us know that you want a certificate, and we will send it to you. And also the recording of this webinar will be available on the website in the webinar section, and also in the upcoming new year we will have lots of new and interesting webinars, so keep checking the web page and our newsletters, and you're welcome to our next webinars. Thank you very much, Andrei and Mihaela, for your presentation and for the time you took to prepare. This is very much appreciated, and we all enjoyed the webinar very much. And I wish you a very nice weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you for your attention. And happy holidays.